Hello everyone, welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to be here with you. Today we'll be exploring Unit 8, titled Against the Odds. We'll look at the forms, meanings, and functions of some interesting language features. This is part of Mega Goal 3.2. Over the next few minutes, we'll cover key concepts and examples that will help you understand how to use these forms effectively. Let's get started. Today, we will focus on three main aspects. First, how to use the past progressive tense correctly. Second, how to distinguish between the past perfect progressive and the past simple tense. And third, how to properly use the phrases was going to and was about to in sentences. These points are essential for clear and accurate storytelling in the past. By mastering these, you'll be able to describe past actions more precisely and convey your ideas more effectively. So, let's dive into each of these key concepts and see how they fit into the bigger picture of mastering tense usage. Now let's look at some examples to understand how the past progressive tense works. First, we have the sentence, "They weren't playing." This means that at a certain point in the past, they were not engaged in playing. Notice the use of weren't, which is the negative form of were plus not, combined with the verb ending in ing. Next, we have they were playing. This is the affirmative form, indicating that they were actively playing at that time. The key here is the use of were plus the ing form of the verb. Moving on, we see he wasn't sleeping, which again is negative, showing that he was not sleeping during that past moment. The contraction wasn't is used here, combining was with not. And lastly, he was sleeping confirms that he was in the process of sleeping at that particular time. The main takeaway is that in the past progressive tense, we use was for singular subjects like I, he, she, it, and were for plural subjects like you, we, they. For negatives, we add not after was or were, forming was not or weren't. And of course, the main verb takes the ing ending in all cases. This tense helps us describe ongoing actions in the past, providing context and clarity in storytelling and conversations. Let's talk about how we use the past progressive tense to describe actions at specific times in the past. First, we often mention a specific time to show exactly when something was happening. For example, in August, he was working at a summer camp. Here, we focus on the action that was ongoing during that particular month. Next, we have, they were playing at 9 a.m. yesterday. This sentence highlights an activity that was happening at a precise time yesterday morning. Then there's, last night at 6 p.m. I was eating dinner. This example shows how the past progressive can describe what someone was doing at a specific moment in the evening. Overall, the key point is that the past progressive helps us emphasize the ongoing nature of actions at specific past times, making our storytelling more precise and vivid. A few months ago, he was working at a hotel. This is a good example of a temporary state or action. When we talk about something that was happening around a specific time in the past, we use the past progressive tense. Similarly, a few years ago, I was living in Dubai. This shows that I was in Dubai during that period, but it was temporary. It wasn't permanent or ongoing forever. So the key point here is that we use the past progressive to describe temporary states or actions that were happening at a certain time in the past. It helps us emphasize that these actions weren't permanent but temporary situations. This concept ties into the overall theme of understanding how to describe past actions and states accurately, especially when they are temporary or ongoing at a particular moment. Now, let's look at how we use the past progressive with always to describe repeated or annoying actions. For example, my mom was always complaining about my room when she got there. This shows that her complaints happened repeatedly and could be quite frustrating. Similarly, they were always fighting when they were younger, highlighting a pattern of constant conflict. The key point here is that we use the past progressive with always to emphasize these ongoing, often bothersome, repeated actions in the past. It helps paint a picture of situations that were happening regularly, often with a hint of annoyance or frustration. This is a useful way to express habitual past actions that were persistent over a period of time. Now, let's look at how we describe two actions happening at the same time using the past progressive tense. For example, I was reading when my brother was playing video games. This shows that both actions were happening simultaneously in the past. Another example is, I was studying when my brother was watching TV. The key point here is that the past progressive helps us emphasize the ongoing nature of these actions during a specific time. Remember, this structure is useful when you want to highlight parallel actions and give a clear picture of what was happening at that moment. It's a great way to add detail and context to your storytelling. Now let's look at some examples using the past forms of to be combined with going to or about to. First, we have I was about to leave when the telephone rang. This sentence shows that I was nearly leaving, but then something happened that changed my plans. The phone rang. It's a good example of how was about to indicates an action that was imminent but was interrupted. Next, there's we were going to visit our grandparents, but it was raining. Here, it highlights a plan or intention that we had visiting our grandparents, but because of the rain, we couldn't go ahead with it. The key point to remember is that we use was we're going to or about to, plus the base form of the verb when we want to talk about plans or intentions that we had. But for some reason, they didn't happen. This tense helps us express what we intended to do in the past, but didn't end up doing. It's really useful for storytelling or explaining past plans that were interrupted or changed. Last night at 10 p.m., she was watching a TV program. Now notice how we use the past progressive tense here. It's formed with the subject she, the past tense of to be, which is was, and the verb ending in ing, which is watching. This tense is used to describe an ongoing action that was happening at a specific point in the past, in this case, at 10 p.m. last night. It helps us set the scene and give context to what was happening at that exact moment. So, when you see a situation like this, remember to use was or were plus the verb in ing form to accurately express that ongoing activity. This is a key concept in understanding how to talk about past actions that were in progress. He was sleeping a few minutes ago. Now, let's think about how to correct this sentence using the past progressive tense. The key here is to recognize that the action was happening continuously over a period of time in the past. So instead of saying was sleeping, which is actually correct, the focus is on understanding the structure. We use the past tense of the verb to be, which is was or were, depending on the subject, plus the base verb with an ing ending. In this case, he is singular, so we use was plus sleeping. This tense is really useful when we want to describe actions that were ongoing at a specific moment or around a specific time in the past. So, by correcting or confirming that he was sleeping a few minutes ago, we're emphasizing the ongoing nature of the action at that past moment. This concept connects directly to our overall theme of understanding past tenses and how they help us describe past events more clearly and accurately. So, in this slide, we're looking at how to correct the sentence using the past progressive tense. The original sentence is, they football at 4 p.m. yesterday. The key point here is that we're talking about an action that was happening at a specific moment in the past. To express that correctly, we need to use the past tense of to be, which is were, and the verb playing in its ing form. So the correct sentence becomes, they were playing football at 4 p.m. yesterday. This tense helps us emphasize that the action was ongoing at that particular time, not just a completed event. Remember, the past progressive is formed with was or were plus the verb ending in ing. Understanding this helps us describe past actions more vividly and accurately, especially when setting the scene or talking about what was happening at a specific moment. It's a crucial part of mastering past tense storytelling in English. Today, I want to tell you a story about a series of events that all happened during a single day. It all started when someone traveled to a new place, eager to explore. While they were carrying their belongings, they noticed someone following them from a distance. Suddenly, they had to make a quick decision to stay safe. In the chaos, some items were burned, which made the situation even more urgent. At one point, someone hit an obstacle, and a person was listening carefully to what was happening around them. As the events unfolded, it became clear that something serious had happened. One person was lying on the ground, perhaps injured or exhausted, while others knew they had to act fast. They rushed to help, realizing they were about to face a difficult challenge. Throughout the story, the key points highlight how quickly things can change and the importance of staying alert and prepared in unexpected situations. This sequence of events reminds us that being attentive and responsive can make all the difference in emergencies. Now let's look at some examples to understand how the past perfect tense works in context. First, we have, by the time I got home, the food had cooled down. Here, the action of the food cooling happened before I arrived home. It shows that one event was completed prior to another past event. Next, he realized he had lost his keys after he arrived home. In this case, losing the keys happened before he got home, and realizing it came afterward. Then there's, Ali had gone out when I arrived in the office. This indicates that Ali's going out was completed before my arrival. Finally, I had saved my document before the computer crashed. This shows that saving the document happened prior to the computer crashing. The key point here is that the past perfect tense helps us clarify the sequence of events in the past. It's formed with had plus the past participle of the verb. Recognizing these cues makes it easier to tell which action happened first, which is essential for clear storytelling and understanding timelines. Vamos a revisar ahora el uso de los tiempos pasados, específicamente el pasado simple y el pasado perfecto progresivo. El pasado simple se usa para quienes que ocurrieron en un momento específico en el pasado, algo que ya terminó. Por ejemplo, ayer fui al supermercado. Es directo y claro, y nos dice que paso y cuando. Luego, tenemos el pasado perfecto progresivo. Este tiempo describe una acción que empezó en el pasado y continuó durante un periodo de tiempo antes de otro evento pasado. La forma correcta de formarlo es con had been más el verbo en ing. Por ejemplo, habíamos estado estudiando durante 2 horas cuando llegó el profesor. Nos ayuda a entender la duración de una acción en el pasado antes de que ocurriera otra cosa. Es importante notar que, en muchas ocasiones, combinamos estos tiempos para dar una narración más completa y matizada. Por ejemplo, podemos decir, habíamos estado caminando por horas cuando empezó el lover. Esto muestra una acción continua que fue interrumpida por otro evento. En el contexto de la presentación, estos tiempos nos permiten describir secuencias de eventos en el pasado, destacando tanto la duración de las acciones como su orden cronológico. Así, podemos contar historias más ricas y detalladas, conectando diferentes eventos de manera clara y efectiva. All right, let's take a look at this slide. We start with the sentence, they had been playing outside when the weather got worse. Now, this sentence uses the past perfect continuous tense, which describes an ongoing action that was happening before another past event. Next, we have a common mistake to watch out for. We have to omit the ed and add ing. This is important because it highlights how we form the past perfect continuous tense. Instead of saying had been played, which would be incorrect, we say had been playing. The key here is understanding the structure. Subject plus had been plus verb with ing. Finally, the slide presents a tricky sentence. They had been played outside when the weather got worse. This sentence is the fib because it's incorrect. Played is the past participle form and doesn't fit in this tense. The correct form is been playing, which shows the ongoing nature of the activity. So, in essence, this slide emphasizes the importance of correctly forming the past perfect continuous tense by using been plus the verb with ing, and recognizing common mistakes like using the wrong verb form. Keep an eye out for these errors, and you'll improve your understanding of tense consistency in English. Let's take a closer look at this sentence. She is such a beautiful girl that everyone stares at her. Now, notice that we use such instead of so in this context. Why is that? Well, Such is used when we want to emphasize the quality or characteristic of someone or something, especially when it is followed by a noun phrase. In this case, such emphasizes the level of her beauty. Now the next sentence says, we have to omit the so and write such instead. This is highlighting a common mistake, using so when such is correct. The sentence then tries to say, she is so a beautiful girl that everyone stares at her, which is actually incorrect. The proper way is such a beautiful girl. So the key point here is understanding the difference between so and such. Such is used before a noun phrase to add emphasis, like such a beautiful girl, while so is typically used with adjectives or adverbs alone, like she is so beautiful. Recognizing this helps us avoid common mistakes and use these words correctly in our sentences. Finally, the phrase find the fib asks us to identify the incorrect sentence. Clearly, she is so a beautiful girl is the fib. It's grammatically incorrect. The correct form is such a beautiful girl. Understanding these nuances helps us improve our language skills and communicate more accurately. So here's an interesting example to look at. The sentence says, we was going to visit our friends, but it rained. But as you can see, there's a mistake here. We need to omit the word was and replace it with were, because we is a plural subject. The correct version should be, we were going to visit our friends, but it rained. This highlights an important point about subject-verb agreement. When we're talking about we, they, or any plural subject, we always use were in the past continuous tense, not was. Now this slide asks us to find the fib, or the false statement. The false part is actually in the sentence, we was going to visit our friends, but it rained. It's a common mistake, but grammatically incorrect. Recognizing these kinds of errors helps us improve our language skills and communicate more clearly. Remember, paying attention to subject-verb agreement is key in making sure your sentences are correct. So I had saved my project before the computer crashed. This highlights how important it is to regularly save your work to prevent data loss. Now, there's a little twist here about the grammar. When we talk about past perfect tense, we need to omit the S and add D instead. For example, instead of I had saves, it should be I had saved. This is a common mistake, but understanding the correct form helps us communicate more clearly. Now, let's find the fib in this context. The statement, I had saves my project, is actually incorrect because of that grammatical error. The correct version is, I had saved my project. This ties back into the overall theme of being diligent with our work and understanding the importance of proper grammar, especially when documenting or communicating technical processes. So in this part of the story, we see that someone arrived at a certain place, which is a key moment. Before that, they had already taken some actions like packing or preparing to get ready for the journey. Then they went somewhere specific, perhaps on an adventure or to meet someone. Interestingly, they had never traveled to that particular location before, so it was a new experience for them. When they arrived, something appeared, maybe a person, a situation, or an object, that changed things. It's also noted that they had been waiting for a while, indicating patience or anticipation. At some point, they had stopped to rest or think, which shows a pause in their journey. Eventually, they arrived at their destination, completing that part of the story. Then, they caught something, perhaps a train, a bus, or an opportunity, that moved the story forward. And lastly, they had cooked, which could mean they prepared food, symbolizing comfort or a moment of pause. All these actions help us understand the sequence of events and how they connect to the overall theme of experiencing new places and moments in life. Now, as we look at these verbs, you'll notice some interesting patterns. For example, forgot or had forgotten shows how we can express past actions that were forgotten, either simply or with a bit more emphasis on the timing. Similarly, thought or had thought helps us distinguish between a moment of thinking and a thought that was held earlier. Moving on, took is straightforward, indicating an action of taking something, while discovered highlights the moment of finding out something new. Tried and left show actions related to attempting something and then moving away or leaving a place. Decided signifies a choice made, and tried again emphasizes the effort to do something. Went tells us about movement to a place, and had planned indicates a previous intention that might have happened or not. Then felt describes an emotional state, and had made speaks to a completed action in the past. When we see bought or had bought, it shows the purchase, with the past perfect adding context if needed. Spent or had spent relates to the use of time or money, depending on the tense. Attempted again reflects effort, but perhaps without success. All these verbs are essential because they help us tell richer stories about past experiences, especially when we want to show different times or aspects of those experiences. When you look at the Europe continent infographics, think about how these verbs could describe journeys, discoveries, or decisions made across different countries and moments. These concepts connect to the overall theme of exploring and understanding the past, whether in travel, learning, or personal growth. All right, for your homework, please turn to page 310 in your workbook. You'll find the exercise labeled P. I want you to focus on that section and work through the questions carefully. Remember, this homework is a great way to reinforce what we've covered today and to see how well you're grasping the concepts. Take your time to think about each question and apply what we've discussed. If you get stuck, don't hesitate to revisit the main ideas from the presentation. Completing this exercise will help solidify your understanding and prepare you for upcoming lessons. So, give it your best shot, and I look forward to seeing your progress.